Rejoice, because finally for once, we have something that is not a childcare manhwa, but a reincarnation one. I am honestly so smart and original, aren't I? So without further delay, let's begin our recap. The manhwa opens with a girl turning off the alarm clock after another long shift. She drags herself out of bed and heads to the bathroom to wash her face. From her expression alone, anyone can tell that all she wants is to go home and rest. As she gets dressed and prepares for work, she appears to be nothing more than an ordinary office employee, living an unremarkable life. However, her past is anything but ordinary. It sounds unbelievable, yet when she was still in high school, she once fell into an open manhole on her way to school. That single accident completely changed her fate. Instead of reaching her classroom, she found herself transported to an unfamiliar world, one that closely resembled the setting of a novel she had once read. She awakens alone in the Cliff Empire, with no allies, no protection, and no clear way to survive. With no choice but to rely on herself, she does whatever she can to stay alive. She scrapes together every coin she earns, enduring endless hardship and exhaustion. Little by little, she builds a small merchant company from nothing, working relentlessly day and night. Over the course of 10 long years, her efforts bear fruit. The small business grows into the greatest trading company in the entire empire. Eventually, she holds more wealth and influence in her hands than even the emperor himself. Yet, despite reaching the very peak of success, her story takes an unexpected turn. For reasons she cannot understand, she suddenly returns to Korea. When she regains awareness, she learns that she has been unconscious for an entire month, and that she is once again living in her high school days. Anxiety overwhelms her as she worries about whether she will be able to adapt to her old world after everything she has experienced. Time passes, and the scene shifts to her workplace. A man is seen loudly scolding and shouting, boasting that the office cannot function without him. He complains about missing documents and criticizes the younger employees, claiming they lack motivation. The people working under him are unable to defend themselves, even though the tasks were never clearly assigned. In the midst of this chaos, the female protagonist steps forward and forcefully throws the completed documents in his direction, putting an abrupt end to his tirade. Shortly after, another employee is shown in distress, explaining that an important client is furious. Without hesitation, she calmly takes responsibility and has the call transferred to her. Moments later, the same manager asks whether a lunch reservation has been prepared for the company president at noon. Once again, she informs him that everything has already been handled. She continues working at an overwhelming pace, effortlessly managing tasks that leave others flustered. It becomes clear that she has adapted perfectly to this life. Of course she has. After spending 10 years negotiating with the most powerful merchants in another world, there is nothing in this office that could possibly intimidate her. Compared to the Cliff Empire, everything here feels almost harmless, like child's play. As she goes about her work, she reflects on her past. She wonders if this is the reason she struggled so fiercely back then, so that she could now live comfortably in this world. However, her sense of peace does not last. One day, without warning, a man suddenly stabs her. As she collapses to the ground, confusion floods her mind. She cannot understand what is happening, but the cold sensation spreading through her body feels terrifyingly familiar. In that moment, she realizes that she has died like this before as well. As her consciousness fades, she recalls that in the other world, her life also ended suddenly and without explanation. Then, she wakes up, her eyes open, and she becomes aware of her surroundings. The unfamiliar, yet familiar atmosphere sends a chill through her. She slowly approaches the window and pulls back the curtain, only to see the moon hanging in the night sky. The sight leaves her stunned. There is no doubt about it. She has returned to the Cliff Empire. She rushes to a mirror, her heart pounding, and stares at her reflection. What she sees makes her freeze in shock. The face staring back at her is not her own. It has been 9 years. This place is undeniably the Cliff Empire. Based on the timeline, it should be around the period when she had already let go of the Merchant Guild and disappeared from the public eye. As she studies her reflection more carefully, she notices long, fine, silver hair that falls like delicate threads, framing a pair of blue eyes reminiscent of a frozen winter lake. Her features are elegant and refined, unmistakably noble. She is stunningly beautiful, the kind of beauty that immediately reveals her high birth without the need for words. Reality sinks in all at once. Not only has she returned to this world after dying, but she has also awakened in someone else's body. Just when she thought her life was finally stabilizing, fate has decided to play yet another cruel trick on her. She wonders who could possibly be responsible for such a twisted joke. A heavy sigh escapes her as she considers what she should do next, and whether she even knows the original owner of this body. Before she can think any further, the door is suddenly slammed open. A maid rushes in, clearly agitated, insisting that something must be said and that things cannot continue this way. The female protagonist stares at her in confusion, unable to understand the situation. The maid finally confesses that her salary has been delayed for 5 months. However, she does not ask for payment. Instead, she requests a letter of recommendation. Already irritated and overwhelmed, the protagonist offers no sympathy. She gives a short acknowledgement and dismisses the maid immediately. Once alone again, she takes a better look at her surroundings. This is clearly meant to be a noble residence, yet there is not a single proper piece of furniture. The emptiness gives the place the atmosphere of a haunted mansion. As she moves through the building, she stumbles upon scattered papers. Upon closer inspection, she realizes they are debt collection notices, far too many of them. The mansion is drowning in debt. She recalls the date of her return to the past. It was exactly 9 years ago, yet now 7 years have already passed. With such overwhelming debt, it becomes clear why the maid never expected to be paid and instead asked only for a recommendation. Due to her commoner background, the maid cannot leave without one and must have been trapped in this ruined household. Her gaze falls upon the noble crest stamped on the documents. The name becomes clear. This body belongs to the Viscount Cretia family. According to the records, the household consists of the Viscount and Viscountess and their daughter, Yuria. That is her name now, Yuria Cretia. She wonders whether the Viscount is still alive and considers asking the maid a few questions before she leaves. The scene shifts to the maid, nervously biting her nails and panicking internally. She worries about what to do next. The young lady seems unstable, and she fears she may have pushed her too far. Ever since the master and mistress passed away, Yuria has not been in her right state of mind. Suddenly, Yuria calls out to the maid, checking whether she is all right. She then asks about the whereabouts of her parents. The question shocks the maid, who wonders whether Yuria has forgotten the truth, that both her parents are dead. Sensing something is off, Yuria pretends to have lost her memory and begins asking various questions. Through the maid's explanation, the tragic story unfolds. The Viscount was a man known for his generosity and kindness. He trusted his only friend with all of his wealth, only to be betrayed and scammed. Debts accumulated overnight. Unable to endure the guilt and pressure, the Viscount ultimately took his own life. Soon after, the Viscountess fell gravely ill, most likely from shock, and passed away as well. Left completely alone, their daughter slowly withered away in the empty mansion, her mind gradually slipping. Halfway through the explanation, the maid begins to cry. She confesses that she was terrified Yuria might die as well. This makes Yuria realize that the original owner of this body likely died from emotional shock and despair, which explains how the female protagonist came to inhabit it. The maid then grabs Yuria's hand and desperately urges her to abandon her family name and run away. At this rate, she warns, the young lady could even be sold off to settle the debts. Yuria calmly asks only one thing: how much money is owed? The maid replies that the amount equals 5 months' worth of expenses, totaling about 1 diamond. Yuria tells the maid not to leave and promises that she will pay everything. This response leaves the maid completely confused. Yuria then asks whether the maid currently has any money at all, rendering her speechless. The scene shifts again as the two of them head somewhere together. Yuria expresses gratitude to the maid for taking care of the magic fire. The maid, meanwhile, has completely lost the color in her face as she realizes where they are heading. She panics internally, wondering whether they are truly planning to enter that place. Yuria confirms it without hesitation. The maid desperately tries to object, knowing exactly what kind of place this is. It is one of the largest merchant guilds in the entire Cliff Empire, a place so influential that even most nobles struggle to approach it. Nevertheless, the two of them step inside. The guild's interior is grand and overwhelming. Yuria needs to meet the person in charge of the building. Under normal circumstances, this would be impossible. With no other option, Yuria decides to force the situation. She instructs the maid to wait and heads directly toward the reception desk. When asked what she needs, Yuria calmly states that she has something important to report. It concerns the missing guildmaster. The scene cuts abruptly to a man being informed that a report has come in regarding the disappearance of the guildmaster. Magic stones are called the Eye of the Demon, a name spread by wizards who fear anyone capable of producing effects similar to true magic through artificial means. Tools that utilize these magic stones are commercially manufactured by the Guild, an organization that specializes in magical items for human use. The female protagonist is the one who originally created this guild. One of her early designs is the automatic door, although at the time the workshop's technology is still insufficient, forcing her to put the project on hold. Now, as she senses someone opening the door, she believes that someone may have finally succeeded where she once failed. The mechanism appears to have developed far beyond her expectations. A man enters the room and takes a seat on the sofa. His name is Leon, the man who becomes her right hand and helps her lead the guild. She meets him when he is only 15 years old, and they establish a master-servant relationship, though before she realizes it, he becomes her closest companion. Leon should recognize her. He informs Yuria that she claims to have a report concerning the guildmaster, adding that even nobles are now becoming involved. Yuria observes that Leon should be around 28 years old by now, and that he has changed significantly. His physique is broader, his presence heavier, and his voice has deepened. She remarks internally that he seems to have changed far more on the inside than his outward appearance suggests during the 7 years that have passed. Leon explains that since the bounty is posted, countless people have come searching for her, and most of them turn out to be frauds. Even so, the reason he comes out personally this time is because she claims to be the noble daughter of the discount family. While it is pitiful to see someone struggling under massive debt, he makes it clear that she should not try to pass herself off as another scammer. Officially, her death is concealed, and since she is listed as missing, the guild places a bounty to locate her after her sudden disappearance. As a result, many imposters seeking reward money come forward. Yuria's appearance is also treated as an attempt to escape debt, since she is already considered dead. Yuria wonders how much hope and disappointment Leon must have experienced through all these years. Leon then admonishes her, insisting that no matter how urgent her situation may be, she should not go this far and should find another way to earn money. This reaction makes Yuria realize that the guildmaster must have said the same thing before. She recalls how she once claimed she came from another world, only for the guildmaster to laugh it off as a drunken fantasy. She understands now how impossible it must have been for them to believe her words. Leon suddenly reaches out and grabs her hand, demanding to know how she could possibly know these things. Yuria explains that 7 years ago she is ambushed on her way to the Millie Kingdom and dies instantly on the spot. Somehow, she returns to the palace where she originally lived and later comes back to the guild, but she awakens in the body of a completely different woman. That woman is the body she now inhabits. Leon is left in disbelief, unable to comprehend what he is hearing. Yuria then presses a hidden button, causing a concealed door to open. Leon is startled, remarking that when he first examined the room, he believes there is unused space. But he never imagined a secret chamber existed. Inside, there is a large sum of money, which immediately raises Leon's suspicion, as he questions how she could possibly know about this place. Yuria ignores his reaction and examines the safe embedded with a pink magic stone. This stone is a special artifact designed to respond only to a single individual whose soul has been imprinted upon it. Although her body has changed, her soul remains the same. When she touches the stone, it reacts and unlocks the safe. She retrieves several documents from inside and presents them to Leon, silently demanding that he can no longer deny the truth. The papers are revealed to be an oath. The document itself is a magical item, binding its holder with a force even stronger than a contract. Leon is left wondering how such a thing could exist. The documents are an agreement created between Leon and the female protagonist herself. In them, she grants him power, and he swears absolute loyalty to her. Yuria smiles faintly as she looks at him, asking whether he understands who she truly is now. Leon can only stare back at her, utterly confused and shaken to his core. The female protagonist meets him 4 years after she returns to this world. At that time, he is only 15 years old. He is already entangled in a violent power struggle that results in the death of his parents. Barely managing to escape with his life, he seeks her out for help. When he arrives before her, he is broken and desperate, pleading for assistance and begging her to help him take revenge on his uncle, the man responsible for murdering his parents. Despite the boy's anguished cries and desperate state, she refuses his request. She has no desire to involve herself in the internal power struggles of others, finding such matters troublesome and burdensome. Although she feels pity for him, knowing he has lost his parents in a conflict he never chose, she remains unwilling to interfere. The boy stands on the brink of death, cornered by fate, and in that moment, he makes a single proposal. He promises that if she aids him in achieving his revenge, he will devote himself entirely to her and become her right hand. In the present, the two of them sit facing one another. Leon asks Yuria about the wine she favors. She answers that it is clear sand wine, a drink she enjoys for how well it pairs with simple fruits. He then asks about the parrot she once cherished. She replies that its name is Leon, derived from the wine itself, though he never likes it because it sounds too similar to his own name. She wonders internally whether he requires further proof. Leon then questions why, if she truly is the guildmaster, she has only appeared now. She notices that his expression finally resembles the Leon she remembers. Calmly, she explains that she seeks him out as soon as she regains her senses, and asks him not to feel too hurt by her absence. Leon then brings up the claim that she dies 7 years ago. She confirms that it is true, explaining that when she is killed, a group dressed in white robes effortlessly overwhelms her guards. Although her memories of the incident are fragmented, one detail remains vivid in her mind: the raven emblem engraved on their robes. Ravens have symbolized wizards since ancient times. The scene then shifts to Yuria descending the stairs of her residence. A grotesquely obese man appears, loudly calling out to her and addressing her as his beloved niece. Before he can approach and embrace her, she steps aside, causing him to stumble forward awkwardly. She does not know how the former Yuria behaves around him, but from this moment onward, she has no intention of allowing others to act as they please. She firmly instructs her uncle to proceed to the conference room, making it clear that she has much to discuss with him. Her uncle tells her that he might have arrived a little too late. He offers excuse after excuse, explaining that work has kept him busy, and asks her to please understand. Yuria only smiles in response, saying that of course she understands, and politely invites him to go inside. It is only natural, she says, that he has been busy with work. For the past week, she has been quietly investigating this family. The Viscount had entrusted his entire fortune to his only friend, a decision that ultimately led to the bankruptcy of his own household. It seems clear to her that someone had been acting as a bridge for information, passing details back and forth from the shadows. That person must have been close enough to know everything about the Viscount's affairs. Someone like her uncle. Now, all the family members are seated while she stands among them. Her uncle begins by saying that, first of all, they feel deeply sorry for what happened to his brother and sister-in-law. Everyone present knows that he did not attend the funeral, and that he left his niece to fend for herself, yet he speaks as though he had been entirely unaware of events. And now, here he is. To them, Yuria is like a flower raised in a greenhouse, a simple and delicate girl whose only notable skill is knitting. That much is clear from the way they look at her. Her uncle continues, saying that they have discussed the matter thoroughly, and that it seems unreasonable for someone like her, who has not even received any training as a successor, to shoulder the burden of the family. Therefore, he explains, he has decided to take charge of the family's affairs himself. He assures her that she need not worry, because he will take care of her future as well. As she looks around, it seems as though everyone present is filled with dissatisfaction, yet no one says a word. So this, she thinks, is what real power looks like. She pretends to be clueless and asks what exactly he means by that. In response, he explains that he will find her a suitable match. She will live gracefully as the lady of a wealthy household, while all the rough and difficult matters of this family will be handled by him. She then asks whether he means that she should marry into a wealthy family and keep her mouth shut. Her uncle responds by saying that she cannot inherit the title anyway. She wonders why, and he explains that she has neither the education nor the ability. Even if she were to inherit the title, he asks, what would she do about all that debt? After all, her brother, her father, also lived softly and ended up being scammed. She acknowledges that this is true. And so, this is what he calls a sibling. This is the fate of someone he must have once trusted and cherished. Yuria states that her father was indeed a soft person. Even as brothers, he should have been more discerning about certain people. At that very moment, the gate suddenly opens, and several knights arrive. Their presence immediately causes murmurs of confusion among those gathered, and everyone wonders why they are here. These knights are noble arbiters, an organization whose authority is so vast that even the imperial family cannot interfere with them easily. They judge high-ranking nobles, who are difficult to prosecute under standard codes of law. If they determine that someone has acted against justice, punishment is carried out regardless of status, even if the accused is the emperor himself. They act cautiously and only intervene when solid evidence exists, which is why their appearance in public is exceedingly rare. One of the knights steps forward and addresses Count Diamond, declaring that he is under arrest for fraud, public disgrace, and the murder of a family member. Yuria's uncle reacts in outrage, insisting that this cannot be right. However, Yuria calmly reveals that he conspired with her father's close friend to steal their family's wealth through fabricated information, and that he was also responsible for the murder of her mother. The death of the Countess, who had no known illness, had always been suspicious. The official cause was acute heart failure, yet her mother passed away on the very day her uncle visited. Yuria uncovered that poison had been injected into the IV drip her mother was receiving. Her uncle challenges her, questioning whether she even has proof that he was responsible. In response, she reveals that records exist of him purchasing the drug in bulk, along with numerous threatening letters disguised as love letters that were sent to her mother. The emotional strain inflicted by those letters is undeniable. She wonders whether he truly believed he could brush everything aside so easily. Once the maid's testimony is added to the evidence, there is no longer any doubt that her uncle is the culprit. After toxic substances are confirmed in the IV drip, she traces their source and finds that he is the only individual who has purchased that substance over the past several years. The Count must have felt at ease relying on such a flimsy plan. She inwardly scoffs, realizing that he had completely underestimated her, believing her to be foolish. She bids him farewell, hoping that he remains at peace until his inevitable downfall. This only fuels his rage, causing him to shout in desperation. The crime of a noble killing another noble is severe, and at the very least he will be stripped of his title and have all his assets confiscated. Yet Yuria notices that one knight has not left with the others. She turns toward him and expresses her gratitude, believing that thanks to their actions, her parents can finally rest in peace. The knight visibly flinches before leaving without responding, which makes her wonder whether they did not wish to receive gratitude at all. The situation that follows is troublesome. To gain consent, a majority vote is required, but the number has become even. She asks who among them approves of the 12-hour succession. At first, no one responds. Then she smiles sharply, her gaze sweeping across them as she asks again if there are any objections. This time, every single person raises their hand in approval. She smiles warmly at the sight and states that she looks forward to working with them in the future. The Phineas ducal family stands behind her. The person supporting Yuria is the very one responsible for setting the noble inquisitors in motion. Their sudden emergence is partly the result of a report submitted by Leon of the Phineas ducal family, the most powerful among the three great ducal houses. The authority Leon wields comes not only from his lineage, but also from his influence as the representative and vice president of the trading company. Combined with his immense wealth enough to shake the imperial market itself, this makes him the most formidable ally she could possibly have within the empire. After the succession meeting ends, the first thing Yuria does is settle all outstanding debts using the compensation seized from the Count. She then fills the once empty mansion with treasures drawn from the secret vault of the trading company. She also grants the maid a significant raise to cover her long overdue wages. The maid is left utterly confused and shocked when Yuria casually explains that she has added a little extra to her delayed salary and asks her to please take good care of her from now on. At that very moment, Leon enters the room. Yuria greets him naturally, which causes the maid to freeze in place. She cannot help but wonder whether the funds all came from Leon, and whether the two of them share a connection deeper than mere cooperation. As this thought crosses her mind, she notices that people around them are openly staring at the pair. Yuria suggests that she and Leon take a walk while they talk. As they move, she remarks that both the family and the trading company have grown far larger than she expected, and that it must have been difficult for him. Leon replies that, from what is visible and what lies beneath the surface, not much has truly changed. To him, that only proves how long she has been gone. He opens a door and gestures for her to enter, then pauses to look around the room. He notes that the space is small. Yuria responds that it is already more than enough for her. Leon immediately points out that the wallpaper is gloomy and that many things in the room do not suit someone of her status. He adds that her old room was unquestionably better. Yuria reflects silently that, in Korea, she lived in a room that was only 16.5 square meters. By comparison, this place is splendid beyond measure. Yet Leon continues to nitpick, and she cannot help but think that if he truly knew what kind of life she had lived before, he would be even more overprotective than he already is, so much so that it would drive her insane. To everyone else, Leon appears cold, sharp, and calculating, the very image of a duke who measures everything in gains and losses. Yet in front of Yuria alone, he allows his vulnerabilities to surface. Leon reflects that, just as he expected, she should return to the trading company. Before he can continue, Yuria intervenes and states that she has already made her decision regarding the matter. Her firmness makes him feel a quiet sadness, yet he accepts it, deciding that if this is truly her will, he will no longer insist. She remarks on his kindness, gently patting him, and then sits down, asking how the magic tool business has been progressing these days. He responds that the purchase rate of magic tools has been steadily rising over the past 3 years. Export activities are booming, and the company has captured over 70% of the Asian market, where the understanding of magic remains slow. Overseas expansion has been especially successful. He adds that reaching this point was largely thanks to her. Hearing this, she agrees, acknowledging that he is right. Leon then wonders whether she intends to reveal her true identity. She replies that she does not. When he returns, he is to tell him that she is dead. Leon argues that he will never believe such a claim. He asks whether she remembers that he never liked him in the first place. She simply smiles, recalling that Leon was always prickly toward him. Leon notes that Hackard is similar to him in many ways, even in the fact that both of them were saved by her. He insists that Hackard would never believe such a lie, as Leon knows him well precisely because they are so alike. He further explains that the royal family of the Kingdom of Luke Adam possesses the ability to see into the essence of a soul, which means he might be able to recognize her. It is then pointed out that Hackard is not of royal blood, so he would not possess such an ability. Acting half-heartedly would only create further confusion, so it would be better to behave as though they know nothing at all. Everyone agrees that it would be best to conceal her identity completely. They have, however, discovered a suspicious individual. This person has been following her while concealing his identity in a white robe for the past 3 years, using magic to remain hidden. He appears to be a wizard dressed in a white robe. She considers the possibility that this person may be connected to those who killed her. Still, the timing is strange, as she went missing 7 years ago, not 3. After thinking it over, she says that she understands and will remain careful. She then mentions that she has received a message instructing her to enter the palace in a week. Leon explains that it seems the emperor plans to hold the coronation ceremony and the succession of the marquis at the same time. He asks whether he should accompany her. She refuses, saying that it would be ridiculous for a marquis's daughter to be seen dragging a duke along. He tries to argue, but she reassures him not to worry so much. Leon admits that he is always worried about her, and therefore decides to assign a guard to accompany her. He asks her not to refuse, unless she truly wants to see him driven mad with worry. Faced with such sincerity, she finds that she cannot refuse. Soon after, someone announces that they have arrived to serve Yuria under the command of Duke Leon Phineas. The woman introduces herself as Hilary and states that she would appreciate it if her tone of voice were lowered. This causes some surprise, as it is unusual for someone of Hilary's status to be assigned to a person of lower rank than Leon. Her presence feels solid and imposing, like an unmovable wall. The maid steps forward to greet Hilary. She introduces herself as the lady's personal maid and the handmaid of the Marquis residence, adding that Hilary should feel free to ask her any questions. This small exchange makes Yuria glad, as her maid proves to be sociable and courteous. The maid then asks where Yuria will be staying now. Yuria replies that she will remain to keep an eye on the house, as she will assume the title of Countess Yuria today. She believes that the coronation and the succession should proceed smoothly, without any incidents. At that moment, someone notices that Yuria's hand is in pain. Hilary shouts as she opens the carriage door, demanding to know what is happening. The sudden tension makes everyone wonder whether this could be another attack. Yuria steps out of the carriage and asks the coachman what is going on. He explains that a child suddenly jumped in front of the carriage. Hilary immediately states that she will handle the situation, but Yuria stops her, saying that it is fine, and rushes forward herself. The child is seen begging the coachman, while the coachman demands to know why the child did not move out of the way. Yuria approaches and realizes that the child is a young girl, likely around 13 or 14 years old. The poor girl is crying, as she explains that her younger sibling has not been able to eat properly for days, and is now dying. If things continue like this, her sibling might truly die. Yuria calls out to the girl, asking whether she is all right. The girl shouts back that she herself is fine, but her younger sibling has been weak since birth. Because they have no money, they cannot afford a proper meal. In desperation, the girl begs, insisting that she is not asking for free help. She even offers to become a slave if necessary, pleading only for her sibling to receive a proper meal. It is clear that if Yuria gives money or food openly here, the girl will be robbed the moment she leaves. The coachman also agrees that, while the situation is pitiful, they should move on. Yuria acknowledges that this reasoning is correct. She understands that she cannot help directly, yet pretending not to see something she has already seen feels wrong. She kneels in front of the girl and whispers to her that she cannot give her money here. Instead, she tells her to go to the trading company and show them what she gives her. They will help her. She explains that it is a gift in return for the girl's bravery. Since many eyes are watching, she urges the girl to go quickly and asks if she understands her meaning. The girl nods in agreement and immediately runs off. Because the VIP card was issued directly by Leon, he will recognize it and offer help. As Yuria returns to the carriage, she asks Hillary why she is still standing outside instead of moving inside. Hillary hesitates, and when asked whether she has something to say, she questions why they did not punish the girl for blocking the carriage and why Yuria chose to help her at all. Hillary's past surfaces in her thoughts. She was originally a street orphan who was captured by a slave trader at a young age. She was sold to a circus troupe, where she was forced to perform inhuman acts without proper education or even basic safety equipment. When the circus decided she was no longer useful as an adult, they sold her to a mercenary group. There, she was punished and thrown onto the front lines as a so-called meat shield. Hillary endured countless attacks, and in order to survive, she learned how to wield a sword. During one expedition, Leon scouted her, and that was how she came to stand at his side. Having lived such a cruel and merciless life, it is natural that she would be confused by a kindness she has never known. All Yuria can say is that perhaps she helped the girl simply because she could. Hillary wonders if that was truly the only reason. Yuria answers that it is. As she reflects further, she recalls that something similar happened long ago. A business partner once entertained her by taking her to a slave auction. At that time, she resolved to break a slave contract. A boy had appeared on the stage, and she now struggles to remember what he looked like. In her memory, the boy promised that when he grew up and became an adult, he would definitely stay by her side, confessing that he loved her. At that moment, the coachman announces that they have arrived at their destination. Yuria steps down from the carriage, and a servant greets her, stating that they will guide her. She is informed that His Majesty is currently attending to his duties. She enters the room and greets the Emperor, introducing herself as Yuria. The Emperor asks her to raise her head. As she does, she notices that he is surprisingly handsome, with silver hair that looks as though it has been dyed by moonlight, sharp and well-defined features, and indifferent eyes. Despite his looks, she finds him frustrating, as an entire minute passes in silence. Finally, he speaks and grants her request for permission to inherit the Wisdom Count title. She replies affirmatively, thinking that it is merely a formality and that the matter should end quickly. However, the Emperor continues, questioning whether she is truly worthy of the title. His words leave her confused and momentarily speechless. He states that he only deals with worthy people, and that if she were to become a countess, she would become his vassal and would need to be worth that level of investment. She thinks that this is becoming increasingly annoying. The former emperor had maintained a friendly relationship with the trading company, and thanks to the power of the magical artifact possessed by their empire, the nation naturally progressed beyond other countries and achieved a glorious golden age. However, he was far from innocent. He made a name for himself as a warmonger through indiscriminate invasions and conquests. Under his rule, the territory of the Cliff Empire expanded, but as a result, there were countless victims, and the Kingdom of Lukum was one of them. The one who beheaded that former emperor and ascended the throne himself is the current emperor, Kushan. She has heard that he lived in hiding and concealed his identity until he suddenly appeared and incited a rebellion. Now, after the period of chaos, he is regarded as the most just and virtuous ruler. She is curious about what kind of person he might be, though he certainly seems difficult to deal with. He continues by saying that if she has nothing to say, she may leave. However, she points out that the pen he is using comes from the Duchy of Infant. Pens from that duchy are quite famous. They are luxury items made from the flexible yet sturdy stem of the florestal flower, combined with feathers from the rare golden peacock, which is not often found even within the duchy itself. People say that once someone uses such a pen, they can never use another one again. It boasts a high price, yet the demand remains steady. Currently, it can be seen as a monopoly, and in other words, there is relatively little competition. Recently, as more communities have become literate, the market has been expanding, which naturally leads to scarcity. The quantity produced in the duchy is quite limited, so it is only natural that a certain shortage occurs. Kushan reflects on how the value of the Dutchman has soared even higher. She observes that when a shortage occurs, the market becomes rigid, and she knows that he has no choice but to listen carefully. 3 years have passed since his accession, and the nation has entered a period of stability. It is now time to demonstrate to both the nobility and the common people the significant economic achievements and meaningful businesses established in the name of the imperial family. He acknowledges this, but remarks that creating a plan capable of rivaling theirs will not be easy. They cannot afford to waste time and money on uncertainty. She notes that business and gambling are separated by only a hair's breadth, but there is merit in what he says. She suggests that, without squandering material or money, she could produce the highest quality pen. He wonders if that is truly possible, and she responds that she does not fear making jokes to the emperor. After all, he asked her to prove her worth, and this is her demonstration of that worth. Kushan remarks that it is amusing. Seeing her reminds him of something. She feels a bit confused, but he continues, stating that approval will be granted before the end of the banquet, and she can leave with that. She sees him off outside, feeling utterly exhausted. She wonders if it is just her imagination, but she has the fleeting sense that she has seen him somewhere before. The scene shifts to Kushan sitting alone, drinking wine. He reflects that he did not become emperor merely to examine travel documents. 2 years before, when he had left the Mage Tower, that person had already gone missing. He began the search late, but could not find a trace, no body, nothing. They scoured every possible location to locate her, but found nothing. He realized he would need a vast network of information and the authority to oversee everything. That was why he became emperor, all for the singular purpose of finding the leader of the trading company. Yet there had been no progress at all. Suddenly, a visitor arrives, prompting Kushan to wonder if there is any news. They report that they have searched the entire empire again, but the result is unchanged. They suspected she might have been sold elsewhere, so they investigated slave traders, brothels, and even mines. Yet the outcome remains the same. Kushan orders them to expand the search to the surrounding kingdoms, and if that fails, to search the entire continent. She must be found. They are also instructed to monitor the Phineas Duchy closely. If she appears, she will undoubtedly seek out Duke Leon Phineas. Kushan thinks of Yuria. She was a bold woman, and he had not truly expected her to prove herself. Watching her act without hesitation reminded him of someone he had not thought of in a long time. He guesses she will attend the banquet tomorrow, and if she is silent again, he contemplates standing by the window, lost in thought. As Yuria finishes getting ready, the maids admire how she truly looks like a porcelain doll. The navy blue dress suits her exceptionally well, enhancing her composed and elegant presence. Yuria looks at them and offers her thanks. She has dressed carefully for the occasion, though she still needs to eat. Every time a young man attempts to approach her, she disappears with the excuse that she is busy. It has been a long time since she last tasted this wine, and she needs to carefully assess the key figures present at the gathering. One of them is Count Ribeiro, a man who has recently achieved considerable success in the trading business. Standing next to him is the heir of the famous Leaked family, well known for their exceptional paper-making skills. Just at that moment, an announcement rings through the hall, declaring that Carlia and Carlos, the children of the Velvet family, are entering. Yuria notes immediately that they are among today's most important figures. The Velvet family is a massive business household that owns numerous enterprises and stands second only to the trading company. If not for the invention of the magical artifact, the trading company would have struggled greatly to catch up to the Velvet enterprises. It seems that the Velvet family has made remarkable progress during the time Yuria was gone. She wonders whether the Duke of Velvet could have been the one who ordered her assassination. Among the siblings, Carlia, the elder sister, is incredibly talented. She always ranked first at the academy, and alongside Leon, she was known as a genius. Carlos, on the other hand, was notorious for being a troublemaker. It appears that only the siblings attend the gathering, as their father's condition is critical. It would be troublesome if this young woman were to become the next head of the family before formally inheriting the position. Before returning to the family estate, they had suddenly visited the trading company. Soon after, Yuria overhears several young ladies whispering among themselves, clearly speaking about Carlia. Her name has surfaced on the marriage market, and it is practically an unofficial declaration that the next head of the Velvet family will not be a woman. Given the Duke's conservative nature, it is understandable. The thought of a woman managing the company is considered ridiculous in his eyes. Still, Yuria wonders whether Carlia would accept such a decision so easily. At that moment, another announcement echoes through the hall, declaring the arrival of His Excellency, Duke Hentz. Even as a child, he was known for his striking appearance, and with age, he has grown even more handsome. Hentz is the head of the Heltz family, renowned for its magical lineage, and recognized as one of the 3 most powerful dukes. Due to his brother's disappearance 12 years ago, he inherited the position of family head. His brother, a genius magician, had been a promising grand archmage and the pride and symbol of the family. It was predetermined that he would become the next family head. However, when the former duke suddenly passed away and the state demanded an immediate succession, his brother vanished without a trace. It was then that Hentz inherited the ducal title. Leon had recently mentioned that the situation surrounding the Heltz family was suspicious. Yuria notices Duke Hentz looking directly at her and wonders about the reason. As he begins to walk toward her, Leon suddenly grabs her hand, having finally found her. She notices that he is still wearing the pierce she made for him back when he first entered high society. It has truly been a long time. The memory of him sneaking into her room at night because he could not sleep alone surfaces clearly in her mind. Leon had suffered from lingering trauma that prevented him from sleeping properly, so she crafted the item as a talisman to ward off nightmares. Seeing him naturally call her by her name surprises her, as it seems he can address a woman so casually. The thought almost tempts her to tease him. She reflects that it has been long enough that one might even try being in a relationship. Leon reacts strongly, unable to believe such a thing could be true, especially after her sudden disappearance. She realizes that her words were spoken without proper thought. Leon, however, believes that he should be the one apologizing for startling her. He admits that he called her by name because he thought formalities would only make her uncomfortable, and he briefly considers whether he should address her with a title instead. She ultimately decides that he should simply call her by her name. He smiles, already knowing this would be her answer, and she finds herself looking at him closely. His radiance is undeniable, so much so that anyone who sees him might faint on the spot. Suddenly, another announcement resounds through the hall, declaring the entrance of Emperor Kashan. The emperor expresses his gratitude to everyone for attending the gathering and surveys the room with interest. He remarks that it is a special day, and when his gaze finally lands on Yuria, he smiles warmly. He hopes that everyone, especially her, will enjoy the occasion to their heart's content. The party remains in full swing when Yuria turns her attention to Leon and points out that he is not supposed to be here. Leon, however, finds it unreasonable, as she herself is present, so he questions where else he is supposed to go. This prompts her to remind him that she is not a child. Leon continues, regardless, expressing concern that eating too much is unhealthy. He mentally counts how many plates she has already had today, and recalls that she once promised him to limit her food intake each day. As she listens, Yuria cannot help but think that as Leon grows older, he has become increasingly nagging. He continues speaking while her gaze drifts toward Duke Hans. Leon leans closer and quietly informs her that he only knows some external details about the man and wonders whether they should investigate further. From travel matters to interpersonal relationships, he believes it will not be difficult to uncover more information. He also notes that he needs to renew the contract for the magic mine soon. Just then, someone approaches Leon and informs him that His Majesty wishes to meet him. Yuria notices Emperor Kashan looking at her with a strange intensity, even though it is Leon whom he has summoned. She reassures Leon that he should go and tells him she will be waiting. At the same time, she thinks it might be best for her to move elsewhere. She soon finds herself standing alone on the balcony. The night sky stretches beautifully above her, and the cool night breeze feels refreshing against her skin. It has been a long time since she has felt this relaxed. However, her peace is abruptly shattered when someone calls out to her, stating that they were right and that she is class doll Yuria. She turns to question who the person is, only for him to introduce himself as William, claiming that they once spent good times together at the academy. Yuria does not recognize him at all. She had clearly entered the balcony and drawn the curtain behind her, so the fact that he followed her irritates her deeply. She finds the situation extremely annoying. William suddenly grabs her hand, questioning her reaction and acting as though her behavior is unreasonable. He laments that they were once known as the representative couple of the academy and insists that cheating just once is not such a grave sin. He goes on to claim that he has reflected deeply on his actions and asks for forgiveness, declaring that she is still the one for him. He even remarks that she has become far prettier since their academy days, recalling how she once looked sickly. In response, Yuria throws the wine in her hand directly at his face. She makes it clear that she has no interest in the past and orders him to leave. She warns him that if he touches her again, it will not end lightly, emphasizing that it is no joke for carbonated drinks or wine to splash into someone's eyes. William, having reached his limit, grabs her by the hair and violently throws her aside, demanding to know where she thinks she is going. He accuses her of disrespecting him when he came intending to pamper her, questioning how she dares to treat him this way. His glare sharpens as he resolves to make her behave obediently again. Just as Yuria begins to rise and prepares to take out her stiletto heel, someone sternly questions William about his actions and orders him to get away from her immediately. William turns and realizes that the man before him is Duke Hans. Panic overtakes him, and he hurriedly retreats while apologizing profusely. Duke Hans extends his hand to Yuria, which makes her wonder why he has appeared here. He helps her stand and encourages her to get up properly. She puts her shoes back on and expresses her gratitude, noting that he did not have to intervene. She acknowledges that she would have been in serious trouble if he had arrived any later, adding that the man would have been stepped on by her high heels. She also reasons that he should not have been able to see her due to the curtain and questions how he knew she was there. She recalls that they made eye contact several times during the evening and wonders whether he knows her personally. Duke Hans reacts slightly and denies knowing her at all, which only deepens her curiosity about why he had been watching her. He explains that it was by chance that he noticed her, and afterward, he saw a man chasing her. Internally, Yuria concludes that she and Duke Hans truly do not know each other. She wonders whether his interest is personal or related to her position as the future leader of the trading company. As a man with numerous connections, he is someone she will inevitably cross paths with again. She decides that creating a connection would be beneficial and proposes an arrangement, which causes him to blush slightly.